the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.
Thank you for joining us. Jack Blood, your radio gun. This is AmericanFreedomRadio.com and all of our great affiliates out there across the world. Thank you for tuning in today. I had a very interesting conversation last night with Kurt Haskell, who, along with his wife Lori, were on the plane that carried the underwear bomber. This is, of course, all over the news. It is a story we cannot get away with as more and more inconsistencies seem to come related to the official story. I wanted to bring Kurt on today to tell his story, and more importantly, to keep him in focus, to keep him in the spotlight in the media, not only to maybe protect him, but to keep this story strong so that all the leads are followed up and we can get to the truth of what happened on Christmas Day. Kurt Haskell joins us. Again, thank you, Kurt, for making time for us. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Can I have you just kind of retell part of the story, Kurt, for people who maybe haven't heard it or didn't catch all of it? If you could just reiterate some of the stronger points of that day, Christmas Day, starting in Amsterdam and going to the bombing itself.
Okay, sure. My wife and I were flying in from Uganda via Kenya to Amsterdam and then back to Detroit. And the important part of the story comes when we were in the boarding area at Amsterdam. We were sitting on near what I would call the final ticket agent, the person that checks your boarding pass just before you go down the hallway and get on the plane. We were about 10 feet away, sitting on the floor because there weren't two seats by each other anywhere that were open. So we took a seat on the floor, playing cards. I'm just people watching, and I saw two people approach the ticket agent that, I didn't think the people were strange if you look at them separate, but I thought it was strange that they were together. And one of them looked like a poor black teenager to me, and the second man looked like a wealthy 50-ish, I thought he was Indian, but, let's just say Southeast Asian descent of some sort.
Okay.
And they seemed like an odd couple to me to be together, and they approached the ticket agent, and I could hear the entire conversation. It was very quiet, and I was only about 10 feet away. And only the Indian man spoke, and what he said was, this man needs to get on the plane, and he doesn't have a passport. And the ticket agent then said, well, he has to have a passport to get on the plane. And the Indian man then responded, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. And the ticket agent then responded, well, you'll need to talk to my manager, and pointed down a hallway for them to go down, which they did.
Can I stop you there? Because
Sure.
One of the questions I had was, and you identify this man as he's been called the sharp-dressed man.
Correct, Mr. Sharp-Dressed Man. Coined by M Live, not me, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it does kind of fit. A guy in a suit, anyway, especially when you're standing next to a poor black teen at this point, which we found out later is rather rich.
Yeah.
Did he identify himself at all, or did he just bring this up and say we want to get this guy on the plane? He doesn't have a passport. Mm-hmm. Did he say who he was or who he was representing?
No.
Okay. Go ahead from there. So they go get the manager, and what happens next?
They didn't get the manager. They went down a hallway where the manager was supposed to be, and I didn't look after that.
And that's all of them, including the kid, including the suspect?
Well, there were just two of them, right.
Uh-huh. So the suspect and the older gentleman go down the hall with the ticket agent?
Not with the ticket agent. The ticket agent just pointed them down a hallway and didn't go.
Go ahead.
Okay. I never saw the Indian man again, and I never saw, who I would call the terrorist again until he was attempting to blow up our plane a few hours later.
I want to, kind of stick to the fine details with you today, Kurt, because
Absolutely.
sometimes, even though you've probably told this story hundreds of times, sometimes, it'll jog your memory, or we'll find something that's really small that is rather significant.
Okay.
One of the things I was interested in, and I asked you about this last night when we talked on the phone, is, you're not absolutely sure that this was an Indian. He could have been a Pakistani, but, you're doing the best you can to kind of put a face or an identity to the person, but he very well could have been Pakistani.
You're absolutely right. I just looked at him and I thought he was from India, but that would be like asking someone from India to tell the difference from an American and a Canadian.
Right.
I'm not that talented enough to tell what side of the border he was born on.
Yeah, because we have seen in past instances where things like this happen, we see a lot of integration with Pakistanis, and we know CIA, ISI have worked closely together in the past. So I thought that might be important, the distinction, because everyone's running with the fact that the guy was an Indian, just because, again, that was your simple observation. But as you say, he could have just as well been a Pakistani.
Yeah, just the impression that he gave me was that he was from India. But, yeah, that's it.
Take us to the plane. So the plane ride is fairly uneventful. It's a transatlantic flight. I assume, people are sleeping or trying to pass the time the best they can.
Correct.
What happened as soon as this thing sparked up, excuse the pun, what happened then? What did you see then?
Well, we were 10 minutes from landing. The pilot had just come over the loudspeaker and said, "We're landing in 10 minutes. Flight crew, take your seats." And a flight attendant was walking past my row to go to the back to take her seat, and she said something to herself. Excuse me. She said, "Something smells like smoke," and that got me to look up from, I was looking at the monitor on the back of the seat back in front of me before that. I looked up, and I could see smoke coming from row 19, seat A, which is the left window seat. We were in row 27, seats H and J, which are the two seats on the window in row 27. I saw smoke coming from what looked like the floor area of row 19. So I took off my seatbelt, got up, took a few steps, and after I took about 2 or 3 steps, row 19 exploded into flames, the floor, the seats, and up the wall to the ceiling. And people were screaming, "Fire, fire, water, somebody get water." Somebody screamed, "Terrorist." A couple flight attendants were screaming. The pilot comes back on the loudspeaker and says, "Emergency landing." And all the while this is going on, the terrorist man is being hauled off into the first-class section by a couple passengers. But, at that time, it wasn't clear to me that he was a terrorist or, maybe he was just injured in this fire and was hurt, on accident, because he wasn't fighting back. So I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that aspect of it, because to my left was this fire burning the plane. And a very quick-thinking flight attendant, a black male, grabbed the fire extinguisher and ran over to the fire very quickly and put it out. And everything was finished in a minute or less than a minute, very quickly.
One of the people that subdued the suspect was Jasper Sharenga. I don't know how much you've seen him on the media. We were playing a clip from him earlier, and his behavior was a little strange to me. It looked like he was being directed somewhat. Were you able to kind of watch how he did subdue the suspect and maybe how his actions were, as if he was maybe anticipating this or just reacting like anyone else would? I mean, was there anything odd about how he subdued the suspect? Anything to think of? Honestly,
I didn't really witness that at all, because by the time I looked up, the beginning of the skirmish had ended and they were just hauling him off. And when they were hauling him off, I wasn't really watching either. Just I saw it out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah.
I was watching the other direction where the fire was taking place.
Sure.
Because to me, that was the big event, the fire.
Right.
I wanted to do whatever I could to put that out.
So what happens next? They haul the guy off to first class and sit on him or whatever. The plane lands. So what happens now, Kurt?
Okay, the plane lands, and I'm expecting an emergency evacuation, but the FBI apparently had different plans and told all of us to sit down and shut up and you're not getting off the plane. And we sat there for 20 minutes on the runway.
I mean, there could have been bombs on the plane, but...
Oh, sure. There could have been the fire smoldering, burning the cargo area, or who knows what.
Yeah.
Yeah. not too bright by the FBI, and I told them this actually to their face because I'm kind of irritated that they did that and risked my life further on this day, and I'm still irritated about it.
And the FBI, of course, was waiting there for you guys immediately when the plane landed.
They came on right away, so yeah, I guess I would take it.
So, because you're 20 minutes out, you said, and then the plane lands.
No, we're 10 minutes out.
10 minutes out. So 10 minutes. If, let's just say, for the sake of argument, if the pilot immediately got to the tower, radioed in that there was an incident 10 minutes, and then the plane lands 10 minutes later, the FBI are already there.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that was clarified. Now what happened? So you're on the plane, Kurt, and now finally after 20 minutes, a half hour of keeping you on the plane, they let you off.
20 minutes, just to be clear.
Okay, 20 minutes, and you go off, and where do they take you, and what happens next?
Okay, well, first of all, they walked off the terrorist off the plane. He left first. And as he was walking off, he stood in one of the aisles for about 10 seconds, and I got a good look at him. And that's when I made the connection between first of all, that's when I really realized it was a terrorist attack instead of just a freak fire. And number two, that's when I realized I had seen the same man before boarding.
What did he look like? Were his pants burned off, or what exactly did you notice?
At that point, I believe his legs were wrapped in a blanket, I believe.
Okay.
And
But you knew at that moment, you were 100% sure that was the same guy you saw in Amsterdam with the guy in the suit.
Well, being a lawyer, I never say anything's 100%, but we have a term in law that we use that's called beyond a reasonable doubt, and let's just say it was beyond a reasonable doubt.
I mean, you're betting your credibility on this.
My whole livelihood is on my good name.
Yeah.
I'm a self-employed attorney. And if I don't have a good name, I don't have an income.
Let me ask you: was there anyone else in the plane, Kurt, that looked even remotely like the suspect?
That's the thing. This was a plane full of European Caucasians, and I don't believe there was anyone that even remotely looked close to the suspect.
Has anyone tried to say to you yet, well, white people think all black people look the same? I mean, I hate to have to even bring that up, but...
Nobody said that to my face, although I read a couple comments on the internet like that.
But, I mean, there's really no mistaking. He's a young teenager. He sticks out because of his clothing. You've already noticed him in Amsterdam, so that called... So, I mean, really, it is beyond any doubt.
I mean, he has a baby face. He looks like a kid. He just looks like a skinny little teenager, like a runt. And, there weren't any people that really were even close to that description. So, yeah, I'm very confident that it's the same man.
I got a couple of key questions for you. I'm a little bit behind because I want you to paint this picture. And I just, again, greatly appreciate you spending time with us today. It's so important to get this all really straight here for our audience who's extremely interested in this story.
Okay.
Kurt, so now you've been taken off the plane. The terrorist is taken off first, the alleged terrorist.
Yeah.
You're taken off the plane, and what kind of debriefing is there? What happens next?
Well, we didn't get to the debriefing for a while. Okay, we were hauled into a baggage claim area of a terminal that they apparently had evacuated because we didn't see anybody else. A very large room in the basement, but we were all off to one side of it. And with our carry-on bags, by the way, which to me was another mistake by the FBI.
Right.
Why were we carrying these bags? Nobody knew if there was a bomb in them or not. And let me remind you, the terrorist had already admitted to a flight attendant that he had an explosive device in his clothing while we were still on board.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is after that. We still have all our carry-on bags. Okay.
Which is a good analysis, especially with what you're about to tell us. But go ahead, yeah.
Okay. We're all forced to stand in the side area of the baggage claim area with our carry-on bags for about an hour, just standing there, no news, nothing going on, while they brought in some bomb-sniffing dogs, 3 of them. And the dogs went around to all of our carry-on bags one by one. And one of them found something. He sat down like he found a bomb in one of the carry-on bags of, again, I don't want to offend the Indian population, but it looked like another man from India.
Okay. Again, could have been
a younger
Pakistani,
man.
could have been Indian, sure.
Yeah, right. A younger man, around age 30.
Mm-hmm.
He was immediately hauled off to a room for interrogation. He was gone for about an hour. I saw him come out, and then he was immediately handcuffed and taken away. And then an FBI agent made the following statement. You all are being moved to another area. This area is unsafe. I'm sure that you saw just what happened a few minutes ago, and you can read between the lines. And then he marched us off to a long hallway, and we were taken out of the larger baggage claim area into this long, narrow hallway. When we were in the long, narrow hallway, the FBI did a couple things. Number one, an FBI agent came and said somebody's name, and I don't remember the name, but he said, whatever the name was, come up here immediately. And a 20-something Caucasian man nervously walked up, and they took him away. Not in handcuffs or anything, but just kind of escorted him out. I never saw him again or knew what his relevance was.
And again, tell me why they did that, if you could.
I'm sorry?
Why did they take... Now you have another man who they've kind of led away?
Yeah, he's just a 20-something Caucasian man. I don't know if there's any relevance to this or not. I'm just kind of giving you a play-by-play.
Sure.
Okay. A little while after that, a different FBI agent came and said the following. Whoever was taking videotape of this incident, we demand that you come forward immediately and turn over your video. Demanding it. And by the way, he didn't say, was there anyone that took any video? We'd like to see it. He said, whoever was taking it, we demand you turn it over now, very forcefully. Nobody came forward. Okay. And then, a couple hours had passed, and who I call the head FBI agent came by, and he made the following announcement. We believe we have those that are responsible for this in custody. Notice I said those and not the person or him. He made two other comments referring to the plural. I don't remember what those were exactly, but there were three in total. And then he kind of relaxed his attitude because the FBI had been very on edge up until this point, and he said, just very briefly, we're going to talk to each of the families quickly and get you guys out of here. And then they moved us back to the main baggage claim area that we were in the first place and started interviews family by family at that time.
How long did they keep you, and what was the basic text of the interview? I mean, what kind of questions were they asking you guys?
I would say our interview lasted about 15 minutes or so, and it was pretty general. Where were you coming from? Why were you on this flight?
Yeah.
What did you see? Can you explain it in detail?
And this is when you told them about what you saw in Amsterdam.
Exactly.
And what was their reaction, Kurt?
We were interviewing with one agent. He called another agent over to hear the story. And they just asked me to describe, the two individuals the best that I could. And I told them what I knew the best that I could. And they took our phone number and address and said, if we need anything further, we'll be in contact with you.
I want to pick up on that because yesterday you were interviewed again by the FBI. This, of course, after you're all over the media.
Correct.
They've now seen fit to go back and ask you a few more questions, which is nice of them to do that.
Too bad they weren't the right questions. But
well,
go ahead.
I want to get to that, but let's. I want to ask just a couple of more questions. You spoke of. Whoever took the videotape, stand up now and turn over the videotape. Did you see? I want to ask you this when we come back. Did you see the person doing the videotaping? Could you identify them?
Okay.
And can you also, kind of reaffirm the story from other witnesses that somebody was very calmly taking video both before, during, and after the event? Stay with us, Kurt, if you would. I got a couple of questions. And there's a breaking development in this story, which I'm sure you've heard. Apparently, Amsterdam is denying any knowledge of any of this. Stay with us, folks. Deadline Live. Kurt Haskell with us. Well, as we tell you on this program, no secrets here, nothing up our sleeve, just trying to get to the truth. I often wonder if mainstream media, or lamestream media as we call it, actually did the work that we do, if we would know a lot more and be armed with so much more information to help ourselves. Helping us do that on the program today is Flight 253, eyewitness Kurt Haskell. Kurt and his wife Lori were on the fated flight with the underwear bomber, and his eyewitness reports are very startling and I think just paint a much wider picture, which we are trying to get to the bottom of. So, Kurt, again, I thank you for being on the program. How are you guys holding up right now, by the way?
Doing a little better now. It was a little rough for the first few days. A little stressful, and I had quite a few nightmares, but doing a little better lately.
Not what you wanted for Christmas, I assume.
No, not exactly what I wanted.
I know Lori wasn't feeling well. Is she doing better?
Lori is very ill today, but not because of this. She has the flu and is very sick today.
Okay, well, our best wishes for her, and I just hope this all kind of ends for you at some point, and I do, again, appreciate you spending time with us today, but I just want to make sure we comb through this enough to make sure we've got everything, and then the investigation goes on from there. Before we went to the break, I was asking you about the videotape. The guy doing the videotape, according to Patricia Keepman and her daughter, they witnessed this guy shooting video during the entire flight. They call him very calm, and they don't know whatever happened to him. Did you see this man? Can you identify him?
I did not see him, and what I know about it is this. We were sitting in row 27, seats H and J, which are the two seats bordering the window on the right side of the plane. From what I understand from my fellow passengers, the man videotaping the incident was sitting in approximately row 30, seat A, B, or C on the left side of the plane. And on this particular plane, behind row 28 were bathrooms. So our view of the area he was supposedly sitting in would have been obscured by the bathroom. So I have no first-hand knowledge of this.
And common sense would tell us, if there is videotape, and as you mentioned, they seem to know there was videotape of the incident, wouldn't you be, in something as important as this, confiscating everyone's videotapes? I don't know.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%, but they did not do that.
Is it possible they don't want us to see what's on that videotape? We're still looking for the plane crashing into the Pentagon, Kurt. I don't know how much you know about that, but I don't know where those tapes are. We see millions of shots of the planes flying into the World Trade Center Tower in 9/11, nothing with planes flying into the Pentagon. For some reason, they don't seem to want us to see those. But
I don't really want to comment on 9/11.
No, that's fine. I'm bringing it up because, again, we have another videotape that we may not ever see, which I think would be very helpful for we, the American people, before they ask us to start giving up all our rights to protect us from something like this.
And they could have had it. They had us all in an area with all of our carry-on bags, and they could have easily had it.
And they might have actually gotten it. We just don't know. They might actually be holding this videotape right now. We just don't know.
Maybe so.
Yeah. I'd like to talk to Patricia Keepman and see if she can identify the person, because obviously there are pictures of everybody getting on and off the plane. Let's go to what happened to you yesterday. So, and then I want to ask you about the response from the authorities, counterterrorism in Amsterdam, who seems to be denying a lot of this. So you got a visit yesterday. You got a visit yesterday from the FBI. Finally, they're coming to hear your story. Tell us how that went down. They separated you guys, right?
It seemed more just like an obligatory visit to me. The two agents came. I think they were from the Detroit office. And, I'm not criticizing these two agents in particular. They're very, very professional. My criticism has to do with the agency in general. When they got here, the first thing I said to them was, I'm assuming you brought the video from Schiphol Airport boarding area, because to me that would be the most logical place to start this interview, where we could look at and go over together. I'm sure you brought that with you, right? And, of course, I got blank stares from that question. They proceeded to ask me all the same questions they did the other day when I was being held in customs. With one exception, they brought a stack of photographs, and they were face shots, and they asked me who I could identify and who they were and who I could not identify.
And what did they show you? Whose pictures did they show you?
Well, two were of the terrorist man. Interestingly enough, two, because all the other pictures were of different people. In an attempt to trip me up, I think, putting two of him in there.
And you correctly identified that would be...
yeah, and what I said to them was, look, guys, if you're trying to get me to make a mistake here, why don't you give me a full-body picture of this man, because part of my self-identifying this man wasn't just looking at his face. It was his entire body.
His clothes, obviously.
And I said, if you really want me to make a positive identification, you need to give me better pictures other than just the face shot. And I said, but just from the face shots, I think they're both of the same man.
Well, not that anyone hadn't seen Umar Farouk's picture plastered all over the newspapers for the last couple of days. Maybe they would have been better off to ask these questions sooner. You also said that they asked a lot of the wrong questions. Did you cover that, or is there anything else that you...
Well, I wanted to touch on one other thing with the pictures, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I could not identify any of the other ones except one. And I looked at the picture, and I looked back at the agents, and I looked back at the picture, and I said, you know what? This looks like the guy that you guys hauled off when the bomb-sniffing dog found something in his carry-on bag, the one you handcuffed and took away, the one that you refused to admit exists. And they didn't really like that comment from me either.
Because you correctly identified the second bomber, which is actually being talked about in the media now, thankfully.
Yeah, amazingly, a few hours after I made that statement to them, the FBI came out last night and admitted, whoops, we didn't actually detain one man that day, we detained two. I guess we screwed up and came out and said we only admitted one, said we only detained one. But what they're saying about it is, he's being held by Customs on immigration charges indefinitely. And I just want to point this out to the FBI, and I'd love to hear a statement from someone at the FBI. Please define for me immigration charges. Now, could that possibly be someone entering the U.S. without a valid passport?
Right.
I'd love that question to be answered.
Well, if you have a
FBI.
passport, if you have a passport and whatever else, you can just come here. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
That sounds like an excuse. I'm sorry, but
I'd love a definition from them on immigration charges. And notice he's being held indefinitely, and he's been held the entire time, and they until last night refused to admit it, and they were instead going directly against my statements on this issue the entire time.
Again, thank God that there were witnesses like you speaking up. But by the way, have you talked to the other witnesses much? Do you guys do you talk offline, or do you call each other, or has there been any communications between you and the other witnesses?
No, none at all.
Okay. Let's get to this. So I thought that was also weird. They separated you and Lori. So again, maybe trying to trip you guys up to get conflicting stories. And I assume that you passed that smell test as well.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay, here's what this is pretty much just in today. We've got all of this at DeadlineLive.info. Shanna Elliott. Susan Shanna Elliott is a spokesperson for Delta. By the way, I was mentioning on the show earlier, I've flown on Delta. I've actually been turned down and turned away from a flight for not having proper identification on Delta. But that's an aside there. She has said that she could not confirm that a male Sudanese refugee was on the flight. And then U.S. citizens can only board international flights in the United States without passports. They can, but only after the air carrier otherwise confirms their identity and their citizenship. So with no papers, you can't do it. Without a passport, they say you can actually do it. Smith added that the refugee trying to fly to the United States from another country would also have to have proof of an application for asylum or refugee status, proof of citizenship, identifying documents before the plane could even take off. So in other words, this would be highly unusual. I want you to speculate here for a second. Highly unusual for a sharp-dressed man or otherwise to get this guy on the plane without some kind of asylum papers. Okay, so there goes that excuse, Kurt. All right, now today, this came out. Dutch counterterrorism agency, flight to 253 suspect Umar Farouk Abdul Matab had a valid Nigerian passport and a U.S. visa. This now according to the Dutch. Your comments.
Okay. What's my comment?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a few comments on that.
Go ahead, shoot.
Schiphol Airport came out the other day and said the following. He got on the plane without following normal passport procedures. And I would love Schiphol Airport to come out to the media and define that explanation to me. What would be not normal passport procedures? What would that entail? Because that's exactly what I saw. And if he had a valid passport, why didn't he pass through valid passport procedures? And to me, the difference is the following. Every time I show my passport at an airport, it's scanned via a barcode where a ton of information of myself comes up on the computer screen, and whoever is verifying who I am can see all this information about myself. And if indeed he didn't go through normal passport procedures, I'm guessing the barcode scan wasn't done, and I'm guessing all this information we're finding out about him, how much of a danger he was to be flying, never came out. I'm guessing he just showed it to an official in the back room, like I think he did, and skirted skirted onto the plane, which actually helps confirm what I've been saying all along. And second of all, there's a very easy way to verify what I'm saying. Show the damn video.
Right.
You have the video. They've been saying they've been reviewing the video of the boarding area where I was sitting. Show it. Let's see it. Show that I am wrong.
Well,
I dare anyone out there with the video to show the entire video anywhere and prove that I'm wrong. Prove it. Don't just come out and say that I'm wrong. Prove it, because I saw what I saw, and you know what? You can't prove that I'm wrong because I'm right.
Yeah, we're back to the video again. And by the way, Kurt, I believe you over the various authorities who are, kind of circling the wagons at this point. And whether it's to cover up for incompetence or whether it's something greater, I mean, we'll leave that open for interpretation to our listeners. But again, I mean, let's stick to the story. You also said to the FBI, I guess, you never stated that he didn't have a passport. You just stated that he was trying to board the flight without a passport.
Exactly. That was going to be my next point.
Yeah.
And to try and board the flight without a passport doesn't mean you don't have one. You could have one in your pocket, but you just don't want anyone to see who you really are and have to provide explanations for, where you visited, the Yemen stamps in the back of your passport, and whatever information shows when your barcode is scanned.
Well, and he might have known that his father allegedly turned him in and was meeting with the CIA a week or so before, and that they might be looking for him.
It's much easier to keep your passport in your pocket and go to a back room, talk to a security manager, and claim you're a referee from Sudan who can't speak English and have someone else speak for you.
They said that Abdul Matab was carrying a valid Nigerian passport and a valid U.S. visa. That his name did not appear on any Dutch lists of terror suspects. They're kind of backtracking on that. They have said that they have reviewed the closed-circuit TV video and other evidence.
Okay, where is it? Let me stop you there.
I'm with you. I know.
Where is it? Where is it? You're out there disproving me.
It's
let's see who's right here.
They can't show it. It's national security. They can't show us any of this.
Yeah, right. Who has the agenda? Wait, who is right about the second man being detained, and who lied about it? And who has the agenda here and who doesn't?
Well, and all they say is that they've reviewed. They don't say conclusively that they've reviewed it and it refutes your story. There is no sharp-dressed man. None of this ever happened. They have it all on video.
Because you know darn well if they had it, it would be all over the video, all over the world. If they had evidence that I was wrong. And you know what? Video's not showing up anywhere.
You know, Kurt, I was doing an interview on another program today where I was the guest instead of you, and and I was talking to the host, and she said she'd just flown back 2 days ago from Florida visiting family over the Christmas holidays, and that there was absolutely no amped-up security whatsoever, as if nothing had happened.
Too bad.
Well, maybe it's too bad, but it also shows that what we're seeing in the media is quite often a lot of hype, and they don't actually do anything about this. Though I fully suspect that all of us will be having our underwear checked in the coming years. There are always solutions for these things, Kurt, as you probably know, before the thing even happens, and that is also very suspicious. Now, what, if anything, can you add? One other thing I did want to ask you about was the demeanor of the suspect. We've heard a lot, including from the hero himself, who really clammed up when they started talking about the fact that that's Jasper Sharinga, the fact that the suspect seemed to be in a trance. Can you account for his demeanor, both in Amsterdam? Did he look like he could even get around by himself? and afterward, in the plane when you noticed him?
I just have one word to describe him, and I would say emotionless.
Emotionless. Dead emotionally. Please stay with me for just a few more minutes. I want to make sure we got everything. I'll only keep you for about 5 more minutes. Kurt Haskell with us, the eyewitness, a very brave eyewitness, speaking out. Come back with us right after this. I hope you will join us too. Deadline Live. Well, Kurt Haskell, one of the eyewitnesses from a Christmas Day attempted bombing over Detroit, has been so kind to join us for about the last 45 minutes, probably completely worn out from talking about this, but I leave no stone unturned, and I really think it's important that you did the show with us today. So thanks again for that, and best to your family. We were talking about, confiscating video footage earlier from the flight. Did you know that the hero, Jasper Sharenga, took pictures on his camera phone, I guess, and was selling them to the media for thousands of dollars?
Really? No, I didn't know that.
He's also being paid thousands of dollars for interviews. You might want to look into that, Kurt.
No, because it'll just discredit
That's
what
what
I
I
have
think.
to say.
Yeah.
I'm not about getting paid. I have plenty of money.
Well, Kurt,
I'm out
and we
to tell
should
my
say,
story only.
yeah, we're not paying you, nor have we paid any guest ever.
Nor
on this
would I
program.
take any money.
Yeah, and I know you won't. Hey, I want to play you this quick clip. This is from Jasper Sharenga. He's being paid to be on CNN News, and they ask him about the demeanor of the suspect, just as I asked you. Here's what he says. This will just take about 30 seconds or so. Here it is.
What you saw in him.
Well, he was he was in trance, and he was very afraid. I don't know, but I don't really want to talk about that. No.
Was he traveling with anybody? Could you tell?
Sorry?
Okay, that's enough of that. He doesn't want to talk about it, and he's obviously getting direction from off camera. Why do you think he doesn't want to talk about the suspect being in a trance? You want to speculate on that?
I have no idea. This is the first
weird?
I've heard of it.
Doesn't that seem weird?
It does.
He tries to get up after that and leave the interview 2 minutes before it's over, about 3 times.
Really? This is the first I've heard of it. I'm kind of shocked, but I don't know what to make of that.
There's something not right about this guy, and again, I'm not speculating either, but I just got to call a spade in this case. There's something, obviously, you're very forthcoming. You come out, you answer all the questions that are asked of you, you do it in the most professional manner, you're very nice about it. This guy, his eyes are darting around, he's taking direction from off camera, he's being paid for the interviews, and he doesn't want to talk about the demeanor, this trance-like, emotionless state of the suspect, which I think is important to the story.
And I'm the one they're trying to discredit.
Yeah. I think that's going to be really tough to do with you. You guys are really stand-up people. Anything else you want to add that maybe we didn't get to? Anything that you think is important that we might have left out?
I think I've covered all the main points today. Other than, again, to just reiterate, I'm not after anything except to get the truth out there. I could be promoting various projects that I'm on, or seeking a reality show or a book deal or whatever. I haven't been paid a penny by anybody. I haven't asked for any money by anybody. I don't want any money from anybody. I have plenty of money on my own, and I don't need it, and I only want the truth to get out there, and that's it.
I asked you yesterday if you expected after that visit by the FBI yesterday for them to take this seriously now and look into it. And then, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, here comes the Dutch saying none of this ever happened.
I've been expecting it since day one, the smear campaign against me and an attempt to discredit me. And I've done my best. I've done my best all along to just state what I saw, to keep my opinion out of it, to not talk about anything that would distract from the story, to not get paid, to not promote my business or other things that I could be, and that's it. I expected this to come along all along. I expect it to get much worse, attempts to discredit me and smear my good name, and I'm not going to put up with it. They're not going to silence me. I'm not going to shut up, and the only way they're going to shut me up is to put a bullet in my head.
Pretty strong words, Kurt. I pray that doesn't happen. Listen, I want you to know that we got your back. I'll speak for my listeners all over the world, for all of the readers at DeadlineLive.info. I mean, if there's just anything at all that you need, don't hesitate. You have my number. Just don't hesitate to call me and really watch yourselves here, because, again, you are the only witness to what happened in Amsterdam, apparently, and it's very important to keep you around. And also, I'd love to have you back when all this blows over to talk about some things that are your more personal political beliefs as well, and maybe you'll consider doing that down the road a few months.
Maybe when everything blows over. Right now, I'm trying to keep very neutral on everything.
What's next for you guys, Kurt? What's on the docket? What's on the agenda? What are you guys being asked to do?
News-wise?
Well, news-wise, police-wise, what's next for you guys?
I have nothing set as far as the FBI is concerned or any other agency. No other agency has contacted me besides the FBI. Just trying to get some normalcy back in my life and continue to talk about what I saw and keep it in the public's eye, so so that people know what can really happen. And I just hope the public believes what I'm saying, because I don't really have any other agenda.
Well, we do. Do you have any trepidation about flying going forward, or?
I always have felt bad about flying.
Yeah.
I've never felt good about flying, and now all I can say is that we don't have any vacations planned for a while.
Somebody put you through a body scanner, wants to check your underwear. You're going to be okay with that?
I don't care about that.
You think we should have air marshals on planes, Kurt?
Air marshals?
Yeah. Guys with guns on planes in case they might break out the box cutters next time.
Why do we need those if security is good and everyone gets through okay?
Yeah.
And they actually follow the procedures they're supposed to follow. Why do we need air marshals at all?
If they follow the basic protocol instead of actually making things even worse, if they just follow what they've been trying to do here all these years, we shouldn't have these problems.
Thank you.
If the guy's on the terrorist watch list, if they won't let him into England, why are we letting him in here? But these are all questions we're going to have as this thing gets pushed in our face here, probably for the next couple of weeks until the next big distraction comes. Kurt, you have a happy New Year. My best to you, your whole family, and thanks again for standing up and for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. Kurt Haskell.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much.